Hey there, how are you doing? Welcome to the channel. So today we're gonna just look at the stock market. Man, it was just there was like stuff ripping today. Now, not really the big stayed market. You know, the S&P 500 up 0.2%, no big deal. Dow Jones Industrial Average was actually down. That's kind of interesting. And then if we look at the Qs, the Qs are up huge today. So you can see here, just the Qs were just up huge. So what's, really you had this huge rotation into more of like a tech-based thing today. And then really, going into stuff like this, let's look at this. Now, I had pointed this one out to myself some time ago, and yeah, this had broken the downtrend line. And today, gosh, it just like ramped up today, just gapping up, huge gaps. And then even Tesla, which is, once again, it's doing a similar thing. It's breaking out. It's struggling more, definitely struggling more, but it did put in a decent halfway decent today. And then we have some of our short squeeze guys, and this guy even started to make a move today. Now, the thing is, this one isn't broken out yet, but at least it was trying to make a move. So we have it's back into that totally like the speculative. Look at the breakout on this guy. This is Neo. Look at that sucker. That is that's amazing. Look at that day. I mean, that's just a really strong day. Neo broke out of this resistance. It's broken above all this resistance now here. There's maybe some more resistance coming up at 52.5, but that's a really strong day. And so that's pretty impressive for sure. And let's just kind of, yeah, and even the volume ticked up on it today, got above. So so that's kind of like reasonably good day. It's what you're looking for. So yeah, so today it was just ripping this stuff. Incredible, really. Now I wonder what other stuff is going on. Well, let's look at the 10-year today. Yeah, 10-year kind of, look at that, move down 3.78%, significant move down in the yields, which is, good. But as I pointed out, you have a situation here where, your yields are going down for sure, but, I don't know how much longer the move has. Yeah, because like if you look at the TLT, so this is the price of the bonds. You can see here that, yeah, it's coming up, and it is coming up, but it's kind of hitting that downtrend line. So basically, if we kind of do this and we look at the 1-year chart and you have this trend line going down. So this is the pricing going down, right? So longer term, year-long term, you'd have this downtrend in bond prices, which causes yields to go up. But you have this run up that we've had and this uptrend that we've just had here recently over the last, 4 or 5 months. And so you can see that, yeah, this is cool. You had a rally in the bond prices, but you can see that it's kind of, starting to hit stuff. It's starting to hit resistance and everything. So as I was, pointing out in one of my other videos, I'm like, I don't know how much more it has to go. It's a really huge reversal right there on that day. You see that you had this little day right here, this one, right? That day is like a huge, it like kind of like gapped up and then reversed on the next day. So it's kind of like there's definitely some resistance there to it going up. Now, it's liable to get up further for sure. The price will go up more for sure. But at some point, this downtrend is gonna, you wonder if it's gonna, kind of take back over and stuff like that. So it certainly could. And if that's the case, then, this bond rally, maybe it doesn't have much more to go. That's funny because like you have different people, the Van Meters and the blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, bond rally. And it's like, yeah, there's a bond rally. But, in the big picture of this bond rally, it's like, okay, you can draw your trend wherever you want to draw your trend, but, you're kind of coming up into that downward resistance. So, at some point, that's just hitting a lot of resistance on that sucker. So whether it will just keep holding or not, who knows? But Yeah, definitely. I think the just what you see on these your RK, this thing just like, why is this going up like this? I don't know, but it's going up. Let's check our silver. Silver's kind of dog meat right now. Why? Because probably dollar is probably, yeah, the dollar had kind of a kick up here, but this is a very messy chart, so let's just go to the weekly. Yeah, see, the dollar is setting up, right? I mean, the dollar is definitely kind of setting up for a longer term move higher. You had a low here and another low kind of around the same point. It didn't really undercut it much. And you have this kind of near term high here. We definitely have this, you have a W set up here. And now it's failed right now. It's failed to get even up to that point at about 25. So, it's sort of failing right now. It's got this, and sometimes they call this like a little bit of a handle, but so it's kind of weak. It may not really be good. But if for whatever reason it goes blah, 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 and blah, 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 and gets above here, and it gets above this other resistance here, it could move up a little bit, and once again, it's still range bound. So the dollar is still kind of range bound. Like, look, is the dollar really going to crank out much above the highs in here? I mean, probably not. I mean, it could. I mean, it always could, but is it going to do that immediately, or who knows? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, if you're looking at it, you're saying, well, it's probably just going to come back somewhere up into this resistance, and then it'll start moving back down again. So that's sort of the what you see there. And then, UNG, that's the one I wanted to check because I had some UNG I bought. Yeah, so today it was up 2%, but you see here it's this UNG. You see over here, it just it's a little bit shooting starish, right? Because you have a huge gap up, right? And but and it traded up into a range, but then it basically sold off. So somewhere you have a gap up, previous day, gaps up to here, makes up a big move, and then ends up somewhere, right, very close. It's not a doji, but it's kind of close, somewhere like that. So you get this kind of candle like that. I mean, it's not a strong close. Strong closes are when you close near the high of the day. Weak closes are where you close near the low. So that's a weak close. So even though you had price, the way it works is, price is the over-determining thing. So what's more important? Well, the most important thing here is that the price actually, went up 2%. That's the most important thing. But if you're looking for strength there was not much strength there. So, this kind of hyperbolic move may be kind of whittling out on that. And then Workhorse here, this guy, geez, look at that. I mean, it had really strong moves, but couldn't break 18. But what's significant about this, I think, is, you're making a run at 18 again, and you've hit 18 all these different times. And, you hit it here, and you hit it here, and you came off it, and you hit it today. And, if you get to a point where you're able to break above there into this 20, I mean, okay, once again, it's very limited. You don't have much of a move, but in percentage-wise, you could really easily see that you could go into this gap or somewhere in here. You could easily be into the high 20s and 30s on that. So that's kind of what the setup is for that. So I think that's about it for this one here today. I just wanted to go over some of that stuff that was ripping. You just have a rotation here for sure. Look at the Qs go. I mean, just a strong day on the Qs, which are the large cap tech. What did IWM do? Now, IWM went down. So IWM is like the smaller cap stuff. So it's really kind of mega cap, except that we do have the speculative EV plays did have, good moves today. So yeah, that's kind of really, really interesting. I was listening to, Kevin this morning, and, it's funny how, like, he has his guys that have been listening to him since January or whatever, February, and how, they're talking about how they like went from 150,000 to, 50,000, and now they're almost back. And it's like, yeah, I mean, what do you say to that? I don't know. I mean, I get it. We all have to take drawdowns. That's just how it works. But to sit there and stay in stuff that's just like technically is dissolved, is just not the way. Because the problem is there was nothing in there that said, there's just nothing in everything that happened to all this tech stuff, like particularly like EVs and stuff. Like overall, once again, the averages didn't really get hit at all. The Qs didn't get hit, nothing got hit. But if you look at some of the, other specs, they did get beat up a little bit. So it's yeah, I don't know that you want to hang on that much. I mean, the problem is how you get in, right? See, if you look at like Tesla, this long-term thing, it's like, when are you in on this thing? The problem is you need to be back in here, and then of course you could just ride it. But the thing is, if you're buying in here, it's really tough. Now, of course, there's a nice setup here, right? Look at the setup. You have a W on the weekly chart, so this is set up to move up higher. And that's kind of the trend. You look at a lot of this stuff. Look at Neo, just on the weekly chart, it said, it's moving higher. So all that's great. It's just, the problem is you can't be buying out here at this point in time when you're so far extended. You got to have a better buy point, and just basically you have to have a base. You have to have some kind of base, and really IBD. Some of the best bases out there. I mean, just in terms of like focusing on base, break out a base, is the key to everything. And that's definitely what you need, because if you buy wrong, you can be right and still lose and make no money. So that's always the problem. So I mean, people that go from like 150,000 down to 50,000, that's really sketchy. That's just really sketchy. I just don't see that as being a very good way to go. I mean, this is an interesting chart here. If you look at this chart, like on Enphase, like, once again, really good stuff going on here, but then it just broke. And this is really the key point right here, is when it tried to get up above the 50 at right about 190, it couldn't get above there and it broke. And then it's getting lower from there. So, you have all these opportunities to like, hey, just step aside a bit. But, if you don't, you're at 170, you get this low, so like 110. If you were buying up in here, you just can't buy up in these ranges. You got to pay attention, because you're buying at 200, you're still not even back to where you were, and you just you don't want to be in that position. So you gotta find lower risk ways to get in, and the only way to do it is really with bases. So if you're looking like here, buying stuff here, is getting overextended. But, the big picture is, you have a base, and your base is right around here, this W, boop, it's W's always show up. So here you're at 1150, and you're at 1250. And yeah, you got some resistance at some at 13, some at 14.5, and then you got a big run all the way up to like 17, where there's not a lot of resistance till you get like the 17. So this, it's set up for a good run, given the nature of what's oil doing right now. It's just on a run. So yeah, you do have to be careful. You just take a whole the fundamental problem is that, if you're sitting there and you took a 50% loss on something, I mean, it's sort of like, it's okay if you had bought lower and you were in the money the whole time. I get it, and that's fine. But if you're buying and you're buying at the highs, you got to do a better job of getting in, because if you don't, you can't take that pain. And then, so the problem I have with the Kevin stuff is his whole thing is about conviction. It's like, okay, look, Enphase is a great company or whatever. And it's like, look, you have to, hold it. Now, I don't know what his timing is. Is his timing really good to get in at points that make sense? We have a base and you break out of a base. It doesn't seem like it. If you have people that are like, oh, I started in, right here, like here's January, right? So people are like, oh, I started with you in January, and so they're buying in here. And then they're buying at 200, and it goes down to almost 100. That's a 50% loss. And the problem is, it's not just in one stock. It's like they've stacked their portfolio. Oh, I'm diversified, and I have 10 different EV plays, and it's like, you're not. And the point fundamentally is that you got lucky. It turned here, but there was no reason that it had to turn. And that's what is lost in this generation. They don't understand. They don't understand. It's like, well, it could have just kept going down. You could spend the next 2 years and continue going down, and then sure, there'll be another base down here. And they're like, oh, now there's a great move. And then it stops out somewhere over here, below where you were. I mean, this is like, we can look after chart after chart after chart of stuff, whatever's left from like the 2000 tech bubble. And this is very common. This stuff went down 80%, and then some of it came back up, but it didn't come back up for 10 years. And you can't sit there and waste 10 years in something. So you got to have a better strategy. So warning, if you're following these guys, you just gotta, I don't know, you just need a strategy. And the strategy cannot be strong conviction. Strong conviction is like, I don't get it. Like, what he has strong conviction about? I mean, that's like, in many ways, the saddest thing about our culture is we have all these people with strong convictions about this, that, and the other thing. But in the reality is, these strong convictions are based on like so much misinformation and ideology and dogma and this, that, and the other thing. And it's just a disaster, because when you grow up and you realize that, in certain, manner, there's sort of something like literally no truth. There really isn't. There's only perspectives. And when you kind of get to a point where you realize, wow, things are really like nonsense, then how can you have strong conviction? You can't. You can only be like, hey, I have a reasonable, there's a setup where it's reasonable to buy, and you can invest in that as well. And like what I would say, like end phase stuff, yeah, here's your investment point is recent. These are all W's. You see this in the end phase, Neo, all these other ones. Yeah, you have a buy point here. So sure, you can buy and hold. That's for a long time on a weekly chart. That's all great. But you can't be doing it at the highs when you're way extended from the moving averages. You're just going to take too much pain. And what I would say is you got lucky, because there's nothing. I mean, what? I mean, who do you think you are to think that, you were in this stock market in this period of time where this thing decided to stop going down and started recovering? There's absolutely no reason that needed to be. There's just no reason, I mean, it's just the Fed is giving you a gift. They've just kept the rates low and tried to pump whatever money they can. But it's like, if the day comes where they realize that they can't do that anymore, then your exit point's going to be much lower than it is now. So yeah, well, that's it for this one.